Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our June onX Fish 101 Masterclass. We'll get rolling in just a couple of minutes here, but while we wait for everybody to get logged in and settle in, I want to run through just a couple of quick housekeeping items. So my name's Jack Headland. I will be kind of taking you through the first part of the presentation here, and then I'll kick it over to Joel Nelson, who's at an undisclosed Minnesota lake. But while we wait for everybody to roll in and get situated, reminder that your audio and video are turned off. So if you have kids or dogs or something making noise in the background, no worries. We can't see or hear you. If you do have a question you'd like us to answer, there's a Q&A feature, should be on the bottom of your screen. If you tap into that, that's a great spot to ask questions. There's also a chat box. Chat is not the place for questions. They just get lost there. And they're not as easy for us to see and answer as in the Q&A. So chat's great if you just, want to chat with other people in the class or let us know who you are, where you're from. That's what the chat's for. This class is being recorded. So if you have to drop off early and you want to view the portion that you missed, or you just want to rewatch something, see, how we did something on here, we will send you an email tomorrow with the link to the YouTube video so that you can rewatch it anytime you want, or send it to one of your fishing buddies that needs to get schooled up. And finally, we are doing a giveaway towards the end of the class. We're going to give away some onX Fish hats. So you do have to be present to enter that giveaway. We'll post that link in the chat towards the end of the class. So looks like we got a few people in here. Agenda, we're going to run you through kind of the ins and outs of the onX Fish app. The goal is that by the end of the class, you're comfortable enough to plan your own fishing trip, to use onX Fish, to find a lake you want to fish this weekend, go out, hopefully have some fun, whether it's catching a bunch of fish for the fry pan or catching a big trophy or just getting the kids on as many fish as you can. That's our goal at the end of the class, is that you're more comfortable using the app. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to the true professional here. Joel, how has the fishing been?
The fishing's been exceptional, Jack. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I've been up in northern Minnesota, western Wisconsin, northeastern Wisconsin. Been traversing a lot of different parts of the upper Midwest, looking for bites and having fun using the app. And I tell you, it's been a lot of fun hearing from tons of folks out there that are also using the app and how they're using it to find new lakes, how they're using it to get from public access to another one in the same day, fishing multiple lakes, really challenging themselves to catch new species, do it differently, learn new bites. That's the kind of thing that really gets me going. And I think it's the kind of thing that is going to make you guys a better angler too. So before we start, just a couple items. I know there's always some hot button issues. I want to talk about a couple of them and also just keep you guys updated, right? You're joining the master class. We're going to give you guys the straight dope, give you some juice right now, let you know exactly what's going on. So first and foremost, thank you for attending. This is the first key step to helping you guys understand how to be better anglers. And to find new lakes is really a key part of having the confidence to going out and doing it your own way. We really want to emphasize the planning portion of what we can help you do with onX Fish. And then, like I mentioned, getting to the lake, having the confidence to get there is a secondary but really important deal, because gone are really the days of hunting for those little brown signs bombing down forest roads, and maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't, and you maybe got to the turn to the landing. And these days onX Fish has really changed how people are being able to find these places and get out and fish them. And then the last one is we want to help you with some on the water tools, some things that'll make you a better angler utilizing the app once you get there. All right. That said, housekeeping, want to let you know that Android is in progress. We don't have a timeline for you yet. We'd hate to disappoint you by missing that timeline, but if you're an Android user, stay tuned. We're here for you. I'm an Android user. I have an Android phone. They're not going to leave me behind. We're not going to leave you behind either. So stay tuned for that. It is coming. We are asked about contours frequently. We currently have DNR public grade contours. These are not HD contours. Instead, we're focusing on helping you solve for, in our mind, what can be a bigger issue, which is what's in the lakes that you're fishing. Because you can have the best contours in the world, And if there's no walleyes in the lake you're trying to catch walleyes in, it's really not going to help you. And if you don't know that the bass are maybe somewhat stunted or small, you may spend a ton of time trying to target fish that aren't there. onX fish is really your first step to making sure that you can catch what you want to catch in the numbers and size you're looking to catch them. So, with those two things out of the way, we do have new states coming online. North Dakota was a recent add. We've got other states in the Midwest coming. So, if your state is in the Midwest and it's not yet served, stay tuned. We've got some great things coming up in literally the next month or two that are going to be really exciting for folks. So, can't wait to get everybody on board and utilizing the app to get out there and find some fish. So, without further ado, make sure and use that Q&A section. If I'm going through something that you have questions on, please hit us up. We're going to go through it slow, then faster, and I'll make sure that I run over the same topics that people continually have questions on again and again, so we understand that we're serving people out there that need to see what it is we're doing. Right. I'm sharing my screen. Jack, what do you see? Do we see an onX fish map?
I do.
Excellent. All right. Well, we're in the game. So, first things first, when you zoom out, you will immediately see these highlighted states that we have served: Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and North Dakota. I am currently in northern Minnesota right now. We're doing a really cool film piece for you guys that'll be airing in the due future. And it's going to be all about utilizing the app and helping you guys to do it better too, while providing some entertainment. We're putting on a local versus pro tournament. We're having one of our ambassadors face a crusty old local and utilizing the app to see what wins out, innovation versus perhaps intuition. That's going to be a fun project for folks. But I really wanted to hit during summertime and summer vacation an example or two as it relates to people that are traveling to these big bodies of water. Maybe you're there for a week. Maybe you are gonna try to catch some walleyes in the main lake, but maybe you get tired of that. Maybe the walleye fishing's hard. Maybe you need a plan B. onX Fish is your name of the game for a plan B. We're gonna help you guys catch fish no matter the species, and really give you guys some options to do it. So I'm going to use real world examples, stuff that I've been fishing this week, lakes that we have hit, places we have gone, truths that we have found. I'm going to really just give you the straight talk here. So without further ado, though, I want to go through parts of the app that people understand. Again, the app screen is a little bit different than what you see here. I'm using the web map so that you guys can enjoy the full breadth of a wide screen, but I will call out what looks like things. I will call out things that are similar between the app and the web map so you guys understand. And the first thing is Lake Finder. For me, it's in the upper left-hand corner if you're on web map. If you're in the lower left-hand corner of your app, you'll find it there too. So again, app people, lower left-hand corner, web map people, upper left, and it's called Lake Finder. Once you click on it, for the area that you are selecting, it will give you recommendations. Great first take. You don't know anything about the area you're at? This will just give you suggestions. Lakes with abundant walleye, lakes with abundant bluegill or crappie. If you are only interested in abundant bluegill or crappie, hit see all and it'll show you all the lakes in the general area. When I mouse over them, when I tap on them, you're going to get more information on those individually. Trophy walleyes, all of that is going to be in there as well. And just other suggestions for lakes that may be the ones that you're interested in targeting, along with a little bit of basic information like maximum depth, the general size, the year it was surveyed, because fisheries surveys power onX Fish. That's really the nuts and bolts, the cogs in the machine that help you become a better angler. Save that thought. More on that later. Again, Lake Finder, if you didn't see it in your app, it's lower left-hand corner. For the web map, it's upper left, and it literally just gives you some great insight and overview. You can see a couple buttons here at the top of the Lake Finder. That's the thing I'm going to focus on next. You can get to it through Lake Finder, or you can simply close Lake Finder and you'll see those same buttons that keep popping up and kind of chasing you around, which is a good thing, because if you only take away one thing from this presentation, I want you to understand how to use our filters. And really, when you click all, in the upper portion of the app or the upper portion of the web map, that filters button, all, is going to help you filter and find new lakes. All right, what do I mean by that? Okay, let's dive in. Again, top of your screen on the app, top of your screen on the web map, click all. And if you look through this, you see there's a bunch of information, but we're going to tackle it top to bottom. First thing you do, select a species. For us this week, I have selected just about everything on there except for sauger and rainbow trout. And it's awesome because literally you can choose a fish species of interest. Let's say crappie, for example. We're really interested in catching some crappie. And it's going to show you where crappies exist for the areas you zoom in on. If I get close here, you'll see all of these lakes that have crappies are highlighted with red dots. If you see a red dot or a red pin, you know that it has satisfied that search. Okay, when you zoom out, you start to lose them, and that's because there's just simply too much information on the screen at any one point. So we can do you one better, though. If you're interested in crappie, chances are you're interested in some size characteristics of them, or maybe some population densities of them. Maybe I'm interested in only great big crappies, or maybe what's really common is we're on vacation. Maybe we want to eat a meal or two of fish. We can select keeper potential, and these identify lakes very quickly and very easily on your screen that basically give you a good fighting chance of taking home a meal of crappies. These are lakes that have greater than 30% of the population in sizes for crappies, somewhere in that 8 to 11-inch range, kind of perfect eater size. We're not identifying trophies here. We're not identifying tiny fish. We're identifying good lakes that give you an opportunity to catch a bunch of different fish. One thing that I see with people that make a number of mistakes or are unsure about how to use the app when it comes to this filter is if you zoom out to someplace totally different, let's zoom way north, you need to remember to click search this area. This white button that you see, if I'm kind of shaking my mouse here, I hope you see it. You guys will see that in your app too. If you zoom to a new area, if you choose a new area, you have to click search this area, and then whatever your search filters were, checked for, it's going to satisfy and show you those things. Okay. So we talked about keeper potential lakes. We talked about crappie. Let's say, well, we're really interested in catching crappies, but man, would it be nice to try for Minnesota's famous trophy walleyes? You can select walleye, and in your walleye filter, the same thing happened with crappie. It shows all the lakes that were surveyed that have walleyes in them. If I select trophy potential, you'll see all of these lakes have had trophies sampled in them. More on that when we get to these individual lakes, but there is no better tool to quickly parse down exactly what it is you're looking for in the size and numbers that you're looking to catch. But we can, again, do you one better. So let's say you're interested in, yeah, you've got a big boat, so we're not interested in carry-in accesses. We're looking for a trailer accessible one. We want it to be paved. And all of these things are nice. Maybe we'll select boat dock, but I want it to be a little bit smaller body of water. Let's say a couple hundred acres or smaller, just because we know how it can get with big winds and these big waters. It gets really tough to be able to navigate them. And sometimes it's just really nice to fish bodies of water that have what you're looking for without all the size to navigate. So here's a couple lakes automatically identified, less than 600 acres, that have trophy walleyes that have been sampled in recent history in them. So again, choose what it is that you want to catch in the size and number you're looking to catch, and quickly identify throughout the map. And again, we can do this same thing for a different area, right? We can zoom into this area. I can click search. And if there's anything that kind of trips that trigger that satisfies all of those instances, it'll show up for you. So primarily larger lakes in this area for walleyes, more panfish, nothing showed up. That's data 2, right? All right. So I showed you a bunch of filters and buttons. If you get confused, if it gets to be too much, we want to start a brand new search. I've got too many things selected at once, because you can select multiple fish species at the same time. What you can do is just click reset. Reset clears all of the checkboxes very easily all at once. But make sure to do that before you start cruising around the map, because let's say I was looking for bass lakes here around the Brainerd area. Well, maybe I switched and wanted to look for a later trip that I'm taking up to Leech Lake, and I wanted to switch to walleye type searches. It will save your previous search and keep it in here until you click reset. So again, that's a quick way to do it. All right, I'm going to give you real life examples like I promised. So what's really common is for people to stay on a bigger lake or have a resort type stay that they've gone up to year in, year out. Maybe it's an RV campground, that kind of thing. Those tend to be on some of the larger, more populated lakes. So we'll pick on Whitefish Chain for a little bit. Whitefish Chain has a ton of opportunities just like that, but like so many large lakes or chains of lakes, I'm going to help you break it down. So we can do that one of two ways. We can choose these filters and we can look for, let's say, high abundance largemouth bass. Right away, it identifies a couple good lakes as part of the whitefish chain that have big numbers of bass. This is great. This time of year, there's nothing more fun than throwing frogs in the slop, buzz baits on the surface, wacky rigging worms, pitching under docks, and just catching lots of fish. If that's your game, boy, it's a ton of fun to play it. And this is the time of year to do it. And make that even better by identifying largemouth lakes that have a high abundance of those fish to catch. Again, that's really step one, not your contours, not your reservation to the resort, but it sure would be nice to know what's in there before you make your plans, right? Okay, so maybe we've quickly identified some largemouth lakes within the chain to tackle. Maybe we're interested in bluegills, though, too. Bluegills and crappies, let's say, because again, a fish fry is a big Minnesota tradition. Okay, wow, a lot of options. Wow, a ton of options in this chain for panfish. Right away, you're off to a really great start. Okay, let's say we want to fish walleyes early and late, and we're only interested in bigs. We see rush, cross, and whitefish all have had big fish caught in them. How do we know this? Okay. So if the key thing for you to make sure you don't leave here without knowing is filters, the number two thing I want you to understand is the individual lake cards. What's a lake card? Okay. Well, when you click on a lake, the first thing you should see when you click in the center of it after it outlines the entire lake is the lake card. This has tons of information on it for Whitefish Lake. Okay. It identifies top species. There's trophy potential perch. You see there's a high abundance of them. Pumpkin seed, bluegill, walleye. Let's tackle a few of these. We talked about walleye and trophy potential. We see it right here. It's listed. In this lake card, you can click on the individual species. And what this shows is walleye information for this specific lake. And why it's important is when you scroll up, you get to see a distribution of all of the fish that were sampled. And remember how I talked about DNR sampling and survey data being kind of the backbone of what we're doing here? We've taken publicly available data, but arranged it in ways that have not been previously seen. We're finding ways to graphically show these things to you so that you understand your opportunities. You can see right away that there is a couple fish in that 27 to 28-inch range, which for a walleye is really big. And you can see trophy potential. This is a lake that has historically, over time, produced all kinds of trophy fish over 30 inches even. Plus, it's a lake that there has been some pretty good dedicated stocking all the way up to 2018. If we look to fingerlings, there's fingerlings stocked nearly every year. It's every other year. There are fry that are stocked consistently, yearlings. So this is a lake that has had a lot of attention when it comes to walleyes. And as you can see graphically, the chart shows it. There's some big fish in this lake and good numbers of year classes that can recruit up to other years that you'll be catching here very soon. All right. So we've looked at the lake card. Now we're in the species card for Whitefish Lake. Let's look at abundance. This is a very important one. It says 4.29 catch per unit effort. What does that mean? Catch per unit effort. Simply means the number of fish caught over a given duration of gill net set, length of gill net. There's a number of different units, but they're consistent across all lakes to help you understand how many fish are caught over time. High CPUE is generally good. High means high, low means low. It's a very simple measurement system, such that a high CPUE means there were a lot of fish caught over a short period of time. As an angler, we want the exact same things. You see that it's listed over this blue bar. What does the blue bar mean? The blue bar means the average range for similar lakes in its class. So we're comparing Whitefish Lake to other lakes that are like it, some deep water, some trophy walleyes that are present. You see it is below average abundance. If you're a trophy walleye hunter, you can't let that scare you away, because so often below average abundance walleye fisheries have great big individuals. And as you can see, there is very even representation over 20 inches, all the way up to the biggest fish in the system. Another thing you can do, you can go back to historical surveys. You can look back over time to see exactly how this fishery has shaped up, exactly what has been in it over time, to look at all the surveys. Plus, you even get some tips and techniques on fishing it because it's a fishing hotspot lake. It gives you all kinds of different ways to catch these fish, some opportunities, some ideas. And along with it, when I mentioned that it is a fishing hotspot data lake, you see all these numbers here. Any of the lakes with small white dots that have numbers on them, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Dakota, all of them, you can click on these dots. Area 33, third finger, in the middle of Upper Whitefish Lake, the first finger, second, and third off the island bar is an excellent area for walleyes. From May to July, after the weeds have developed, cast jigs tipped with red tails along the weed edge. By summer, leeches and crawlers should be worked on the weed line. So basically, if you've never fished whitefish chain, you know you want to catch trophy walleyes, there's a cheat code. It really helps you, if you've never been here, for a couple places to check out. You check these places out, you read your electronics, you catch some fish perhaps. Maybe you find and key in on other areas in the lake that are very similar to it. All right. So I'm going to go back a little bit. I've been talking a lot. I've been going along at a pretty good clip. I'm going to slow everything down again here for you. Remember, Lake Finder gives you some basic information on lakes to try. Your filters under the all allows you to select a species you want with some properties that you may want to catch: trophies, high abundance, keeper potential. And once you click on the individual lakes, you get a great rundown of everything that's in it, which again, you can hone in on a little bit tighter to get information on all the fishery statistics, catch per unit effort, trophy potential, and the stocking history. So lots of valuable information here for you when you really dig deep into those individuals. Think about it at several levels. Maybe we use the Lake Finder portion to identify some opportunities that we didn't know existed. Then we dig down a little deeper and we hone in, use the filters. Then we find some lakes we want to check out. Maybe whitefish is one of them. Once you click on whitefish, you can save it. This can be a lake that's always saved in your favorites, so you don't have to hunt it down or look for it. By clicking this little tab right here, it basically saves it, this small little banner. It saves it into your content so it's never lost. All right, you also see special regulations, which is interesting because for a lot of lakes in Minnesota and beyond, there are special regulations. As I scroll down on the lake card here, see more, it says, okay, for these connected lakes, all of them have a daily limit of crappie, 5, daily limit of sunfish, 5. So that's really important information to know when you're digging through some of these lakes and trying to figure out, hey, if I want to keep a meal, how many can I keep? This gives you that information really quickly. And it's updated by the DNR via their website. You will always have the freshest information to stay on the right side of the law. That's super important for a lot of these big lakes where regulations can change. They can be altered over the summer. So you're always sitting with the best and freshest information there. You also see a lot of access and amenity information for that individual lake. It shows trailer accessible boat launch. There's a toilet at the landing. there's good trailer parking, and there's one access point for whitefish. Okay, that's a mouthful. I really tackled a lot of different things, but I want to key in on this survey data because it's super important that you guys understand that this is survey data from fisheries biologists. This is not a bait shop report. This isn't your buddy saying, I caught him on big trout, but he really caught him on cross. This is actual scientific data collected, measured, stored, accurately reported, and shared with you in ways that have previously just not been possible. So, again, this gives you the opportunity to chase down a ton of information and really learn the lakes that we're fishing. One more quick thing before I turn it back to Jack. Remember how I talked to you about breaking down this lake, figuring out where to go, finding out how to take on new water and basically weed out the noise? There's a lot of area to fish here. But by using those filters, we identified some areas for us that are good attempts. Let's say we're only interested in bluegills with trophy potential in this chain. Right away, it shows you Daggett, Arrowhead, Bertha, and Lower Hay are the real opportunities for big gills. And again, what if big walleyes were something we wanted to do, but only in other lakes not named whitefish, but attached? You see that pig, Bertha, Rush, Cross, they've all had them sampled there. So let's say you're in a small resort boat and you don't want to have to go all the way to whitefish. You're in Rush, you can fish it there too. So again, this is the way that I choose to break down water to find out exactly what's in these places, make a game plan, and then successfully execute it. All of this information is super helpful for you. Another thing that we'll talk about or have Jack talk about a little bit, when you click on any one of these individual accesses, you get just the access information, but on the app side of things, you get some driving directions. And he's going to kind of show you a little bit about that in a little while. But I don't want to forget about that because that's been really key in the past week, helping me get from boat ramp to boat ramp. So, Jack, I said a bunch of stuff. Anything that needs clarification, anything you'd like me to run over again, any questions that are pertinent that are showing up based on some of the stuff I've been showing folks?
Yeah, there's one here. I think you'd mentioned a recently surveyed lake.
Yeah.
Do we have like a definition for how long is recently surveyed? Is that one
Yeah.
year, 2 year, 5 years?
5 years is what we're typically going with. Been the standard. We've considered. I say typically because we've considered bumping that up forwards or backwards. But 5 years gives you a good chance for actionable information based on what you're seeing there. Yes, the fish are going to grow a little bit over that time. But if you see a great year class, even from 5 years ago, working its way through the system, you can basically take that graph and shift it to the right to understand growth, all else being equal. Now, there's predator prey relationships, all kinds of crazy stuff that can happen in a fishery, introduction of aquatic invasives, a lot of different things that can change that. But it is the best chance for you to get insider information on what the lake's population may look like in the event that it is not a extremely recent survey.
Awesome.
Good
That's
question.
all I have for questions right now.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll hand the baton over to you for a little bit.
All right, let me pull up the app on my phone here. So give me a second for that to take over here. Maybe. Joel, you may have to stop sharing on your side if you could. It might not want me to take over until you stop. Here we go. There we are. So this is the onX Fish app on my iPhone. So it's the same basic information that Joel just showed you, but on your mobile device. So if you're watching us on your computer, I recommend pulling us up on your phone, pulling onX Fish up, I should say, on your phone so you can follow along with me. That's kind of a great way to learn, is to do what I'm doing on here. So I want to run you through a couple of features that are found only on the app. And the first one is offline maps. Now, if you're a user of other onX map apps, if you've used the Hunt app or Off-Road or Backcountry, this may be familiar to you. But this is how you're able to use the app when you don't have cell service. So you will go to the bottom of the screen and the second icon from the left along the bottom says offline maps. I'm going to tap on that. Then I'm going to tap this green button that says new map. This will allow me, I can still zoom in and out a little bit. I can pan the map around. You are limited in size depending on which map detail level you choose. Medium is chosen by default. And on my phone, I'm getting about a 26 by 36 square mile or 26 miles by 36 mile box. Your phone may be slightly different. The dimensions may be different just depending on the size of your device. If you're on an iPad, it'll be different. Um, but this is the area that will be saved for offline use, whatever's within that box. I can go to a low detail and I can choose a really big map. Most of the time, I'm going to caution against that. I don't think that low detail map is super useful for most folks most of the time. I'm going to steer you towards the medium and high detail. So I'm zoomed in on Lake Osakis here, and as you know, as the great Garth Brooks once sang, I've got friends in Osakis. You can, I knew Joel would like that. That's why I picked the lake.
Well done.
Thank you. The high detail map gets me all of Osakis in here. It gets me the town, gets me the whole lake. So if I know I'm fishing Osakis, that's where I'm going Saturday, I might use a high detailed map. If I'm going up, Brainerd Lakes area, Alexandria, maybe I'm fishing a big reservoir like Sakakawea in North Dakota, I'm probably going to need a bigger map. That's where I'd go to the medium because, like I said, maybe I'm fishing a big reservoir and I want to be able to cover more area. Or maybe, we're in the Alexandria area, there's a whole bunch of lakes. We might bounce around to a few different ones. So I want to have them all captured there. When we're talking about detail level, what that is referring to is the imagery, the resolution of your aerial imagery. So the high and medium detail, not that big of a difference, to be honest with you. The high is going to let you zoom in a little bit closer before the imagery gets a little fuzzy. But by and large, high to medium, very similar. So I would just tailor it to the size of the area you need to see. So for this one, I've got it centered pretty good where I want. I'm going to drag this menu up and I'm going to give my map a name. I recommend doing this every time you save a map because once you have a whole bunch of them saved, you may not remember where you had them saved or what they are, right? So give it a name, whether it's Osakis, whether it's Lake of the Woods, whether it's the nearby town, whether it's, Guys Weekend 2025, whatever makes sense to you, give it a name, hit the save button. That's going to start downloading. You see it at the top of my menu there. It's downloading. And I have this green box on my map. So that's going to let me know that I have a map saved there. If I zoom out, you can see there's my map. And you can see some of the other maps that I had saved up by Winnie. I have one here in central Minnesota. So I can tell at a glance, oh, I've already got a map saved there. I'm good to go. If I go back into my offline maps menu, you can see my different maps that I have saved there. And some of the ones I'd previously saved say update available. That just means some map data has been updated. Something's changed in the data set since I last saved that map. The map is still going to work. So if I'm going to go to this Grand Rapids map I have saved, if I don't update it, it's still going to work for me. That's kind of a misnomer. Sometimes people think, oh man, I can't use it until I've updated it. You still can. Most of the time, it's not going to be a mission critical information. Typically, some private land has changed hands. Maybe we've gotten new survey data or something like that. But something's changed. So if you do want to update it, just tap that green circle. That's going to kick off that update. If you want to update all of your maps, you can go to the three dots in the upper right-hand corner of this menu. So if I go from offline maps all the way to the right, tap on it, there I can update all of mine at one shot. It'll just queue them up one after another. So up to you how you want to do that. Like I said, you don't have to update them every single time it says update available, but if you think of it before you head out to go wet a line, go ahead and do that update if you have good Wi-Fi where you are. Couple other tips for offline maps. If you're in an area without good cell service and you're worried about your battery life, especially, I know we're middle of summer right now, but if we're talking ice fishing, if we're talking cold weather that can drain the battery, if you put your phone into airplane mode, that's going to be the biggest way to save battery life because that's the biggest draw on your phone typically is if it's always searching for signal. So you put it in airplane mode, turns off the cell signal, puts you into offline mode. And when you're in offline mode, you can still view the map information. You can still query that data. You'll be able to see your location on the map. You'll see your blue dot on there because your phone's GPS doesn't work on the cell network. It connects to the same satellites that like a handheld, a Garmin GPS does, for example. So you can still mark waypoints, you can still track yourself. Most of the things you can do online, you can do while you're offline. So maybe you're making a Boundary Waters trip this year, you pulled a permit and you're going to be days, a week, however long without being able to plug your phone in, pop it into airplane mode. You'll be good to go for a while. Um, Joel, anything offline maps I missed or should mention?
I think the best part about offline maps is to explain to people that it's better to have them and not need them than not have them like I didn't have them when I'm going through white pine, red pine forests and I don't have great service. This is a simple thing and it's burned me once or twice, but I'm getting smarter. And once
Mm-hmm.
I have these things saved, they don't take up a lot of space. And even like you said, the medium or even the low resolution gives me something to work from when cell service otherwise would allow me nothing.
Yeah, yeah, and that's maybe the best use case for it is getting to the lake,
Yes,
especially if you're
100%
unfamiliar with the area.
for sure.
All right, I'm going to zoom back to Osakis here, see if I can get a couple more Garth Brooks references into this class. Let's talk about some of your map tools. Most commonly, when people think of map tools, we're talking waypoints, right? So again, along the bottom of my screen, if I go to my second icon from the right this time, tap on tools, you have a couple different options here. So the best way, I shouldn't say the best way. There's two ways to mark a waypoint, basically. You can hit mark my location, which will put a waypoint where you currently are at. I'm not going to hit it because I'm sitting in an office in Missoula, Montana right now. So it's going to zoom us, 1,000 miles away from central Minnesota here. But if you tap that, it's going to put a waypoint right where you are. So if you're worried about forgetting where you parked the truck at a busy access, hit mark my location. If you want to remember a spot, you were really catching a bunch of fish, hit mark my location. If you want to mark where there was a hazard in the water, there's a deadhead or there's some emergent rocks or something like that, you can hit mark my location. Save that for future reference. Another way to do it is to tap that button that says add waypoint. So when I tap that button, it's just going to put a waypoint in the middle of my screen. Now, this may or may not be where I want it to be. I can still change it. I can still edit its location. I'm just tapping my finger on the map right now to get it exactly where I want it to be. Of course, if I zoom in, I can be a little more exact. I can put it right where I want it. Let's say I'm happy with that. Just like offline maps, but even more important, name your waypoints. You're going to end up having, potentially hundreds to thousands of waypoints as the years go by. And if you just leave them with the generic timestamp name and that green X, eventually they're not going to mean anything to you. Because I can mark this spot on Osakis. Maybe we were catching a ton of fish. And a year from now, I might remember that. I might not. Like, what did I mark there? Was that we were catching walleye? Was that where Johnny dropped his phone out of the boat? What did we what happened there? So I'm just gonna example mark walleye and then choose an icon. I would recommend against having the green X on any of your waypoints because what does it mean? right? It's a good just placeholder until you choose something better. So we've got a few dozen different options here, whether it's, marking where you park the truck, or you have a swimming area, where you saw an eagle, where you caught a walleye. I'm going to choose the walleye icon and then color code them as well. There's a lot of different systems for coding waypoints. It's very personal. I'm never going to tell you this is the way to do it. The only thing I'm going to tell you is don't do nothing. Choose a system. You could do it by season. You might want to choose a color for ice spots. You might want to choose a color for open water, or maybe you want to break it down even more to, spring and early summer to late summer and fall. Maybe you want to do it by species. I think that's what quite a few folks do is they'll say, hey, my walleye spots are green, my bass spots are red, my crappie spots are blue. Whatever makes sense to you. Maybe you do it by year. You say, all right, 2025, they're all going to be green. The next year, they're going to be red. So you can maybe see how things change from year to year. I'm going to make this one blue and hit save. So now this waypoint means something to me. Walleye, great. I've got it color coded. Maybe blue is just my, maybe I'm doing it by month. Maybe that's my June spots are always blue so that in future years I can look at it. You can go in and add notes if you want. You can take pictures and add them in there, which is a fun way to look back. If I hit edit, I can still go in here and make changes after the fact. I could add pictures of Joel after he caught, that big 10-pound walleye he's been after, whatever you want. And then what's cool with your waypoints is you can share them if you want. If you really hammer it and you got a buddy, say you got to work this Saturday, but your buddy's lucky and has off, you can say, hey man, we did really good here. I'm going to send you a waypoint. So I'm going to click this share button along the bottom, hit share with a link, and then that will allow you to text this waypoint to somebody. You could email it, you could send it via Facebook message, whatever you want. Most of the time you're going to text it. They'll get a notification on their phone that says Jack would like to share a waypoint with you. They'll click on it. It'll open up onX Fish on their side, and they'll be able to add that to their map. And this is a question we get fairly often is, can other people see my stuff? Can other people see my content? The only way somebody's able to see your waypoints is if you choose to share it with them. Your information that you mark on there is private. We can't see it. Nobody else can see it. It's not like, you have to worry about marking a whole bunch of waypoints and then it becomes public information and your spot's blown out. We'd never do that. Your secret spots are safe. But if you do want to share that with a trusted friend, you can. And then the nice part is they're not able to share it with anybody else. They're not able to then turn around and send it to all their buddies. They're not able to edit it or make any changes to yours. All they can do is view it. And if they want to, they can delete it from their map. If you would want to revoke access from that friend, you can do that as well. After you've shared it, if you no longer want them to have that waypoint, you can go in on your side and remove them, revoke that access. So that option's available to you as well. One more thing on waypoints here. If you want to mark the wind direction, is a pretty neat feature. So let me actually back all the way out so we can start from scratch. If I want to know what the wind is doing at this spot, I'm going to tap on the waypoint, pull this menu up, click on wind direction, hit apply, and it'll take a little bit for it to pull the information, but here it's telling me it's blowing 11 miles an hour out of the east here. So that's useful, especially once you start adding more waypoints on there. Let's say, you don't have the biggest boat and you got to be kind of careful on where you go and when. You can have all your waypoints marked to say, hey man, it's blowing a little too much for us to fish this lake today. Let's go to a smaller one, because we got a smaller boat or something. Joel, waypoints. What did I forget?
Not much. Well covered. Definitely a really useful portion of the tool set for us as we're sharing things with other anglers. We're marking down information that we really want other people to be able to see and find and access. Copying that link and sending it in a text message. That's been slick. Been doing that all week.
Awesome. Let's talk about driving directions, shall we?
I love that one.
So here's, I think the last time I fished Osakis, we went out of this axis. My brother and I were ice fishing, and we did not have a good trip. And we thought he might have broke his ankle by slipping on the ice. And don't believe we caught anything, but we gave it a try. So maybe you will have better luck. When I click on the axis here, like Joel showed on web, it's going to tell you a little bit of information. There's a dock here, trailer parking, it's paved. Tell you some information. There's a pier there. Okay, we got all that. If I go all the way to the bottom and I scroll over, I can tap this driving directions button. And what it'll do right now is it'll kick you over to either Apple Maps or Google Maps. I never try to assume anything. I assume most folks watching this have used Apple or Google Maps in the past, whatever your preferred mapping app is. I'm just going to hit Google Maps here, and we'll see how long it would take me to drive from Missoula to Lake Osakis. It's going to take a little bit of time, only 15 and a half hours. So I could be there, tomorrow mid-morning. So that's a very neat way, especially if you just want to have this up on the head unit in your truck or something. You can get the driving directions. I need to slow down to get you to the lake there. Pretty sweet, especially if you're, kind of the whole idea or one of the ideas of onX Fish is to help you discover new lakes that you haven't been to, help you find the driving directions so that you can get there. Let me get back to onX Fish here. Awesome. Joel, anything else I should cover before throwing it back to you?
No, I love being able to see the app version as well as the web map that I'm showing off, so users can get a great example of what it looks like in both scenarios. So great job.
One thing I did forget to mention when talking about waypoints and content, those sync up automatically. So if you mark a waypoint on your computer, you're doing a bunch of pre-scouting and marking up all the spots you want to hit. When you pull it up on your phone, all those waypoints will be there, and vice versa. If you mark up a whole bunch of waypoints when you're out fishing and you want to be able to pull them up and look at them on your computer afterwards, those will be synced up automatically. Nothing you need to do on your end. They'll be there when you log in the next time.
Great. All
Awesome.
right. Well, I'll run into a couple other things. One quick question that was asked about contours showing up when you save offline maps. Yes. Yep. I just tested it. I was pretty sure it showed up for me. So absolutely, that's going to be helpful for a lot of folks that are checking stuff out where there's no cell service at all. So I'm going to share my screen for the last little bit of run through. This is pretty important. We've covered a ton of stuff, everybody. Like Jack's brought you through a lot of the stuff in the app. I've talked about the app and the web map and what you're seeing. One and the same, both are going to help you a ton. And we talked a ton about this lake finder idea, the filters, which is a big thing to help you quickly find new lakes. And then individually clicking on some of these lakes, learning more about them, digging in deep to get a good understanding of individual species, where they exist, above average, below average, how they rank. One thing I do want to make apparent to you guys, I didn't show you quite yet. When you encounter abundance that's considered as an outlier, it means it is through the roof. It is an exceptional lake, one of a handful of gems like it in the state. So this is an outlier for abundance of largemouth bass. You can see the average length is not very big. When we click on it, you can see that there are nice fish in the lake, but that most of them are of a small average size, and they just literally broke the nets when they tried to bring this thing in to show off some largemouth bass. So when you encounter an outlier, you've really keyed into something that's pretty exclusive. So keep hunting for those outliers as they relate to catch per unit effort, and you're going to find some really great fisheries to check out. So, all right. So we covered all of those things. We talked about a number of others related to finding fish and finding new water, getting into lakes as you would with public accesses, being able to click on those, go to driving directions. But I want to key you in on a few other features and functions. Jack went through the waypoints as you see in the web map here, upper right. But I'm going to cue you in to this layers box, the layers box. So you're going to see this in the right-hand side of your app. It's going to look like a stack of file folders or a stack of books. I want you to click on it or tap on it in the event that you're looking at it via the app, and you'll see that our map layers are here. This is a really important tab for you guys to understand because this controls your experience within the app. And you'll see that there's a couple ways that we can look at things from a base map perspective. Let's say we're only interested in the lakes, and I don't want to be troubled by all this aerial photography, and all these other things. Click on Topo to see all of the shaded relief contours for these lakes. Now, let's say I don't want contours, but I want to study really closely exactly where these points and bends and twists and turns are. You see immense detail in our aerial photography. You've even got this nice little weed bed or hump that's coming off of this kind of point. You can see areas of hard sand. You can see in clear lakes, especially, and there's a lot more of them with aquatic invasives here recently. You can see a ton with just the aerial photography, or like I have, listed up against the hybrid, which is your contours plus your aerials. So keep that in mind. Again, to find where I'm at, you're looking for this little box right here. I'm kind of shaking my mouse back and forth so you see it. That's in the web map. You're looking for that same icon in the app itself. Once you click on it, you can adjust your base map, but you can also adjust, if you're looking at hybrid or aerial, what satellite imagery you're looking at. So this is very recent stuff that was flown in June, early June. You can basically start tracking weed growth. You can look to back bays. We used it here this week to be able to find the best lily pad fields that show up historically over time. If you look, I'm actually going back in time. I can look at the ice, how it formed. I can be able to, I can go back and see last summer in August exactly where the pad fields were, exactly where all this submergent and emergent vegetation kind of filled out these back bays, and probably get a better idea where to chase slop bass. And I just gave you an ice fishing example. I'm going to give you another really good one. When it comes to ice, you can actually start to track not just how the ice is forming and what went down there, but you can actually track human activity out on the ice. As you can see, I can start to see some of these trails on upper red. These are actually paths out onto the lake. And if I continue through, you can really start to see how these shanty towns show up and cover portions of the lake in excessive detail. Like, this is amazing, being able to see all these individual parking spots for wheelhouses. And maybe more importantly, you can see areas of the lake that received very little pressure throughout the winter. And if I was targeting walleyes in the winter on Upper Red Lake, and I was looking at the recent satellite imagery, I'd be looking in this north central portion of the lake. All right. Again, how did I get there? You're confusing me, Joel. You're clicking around too fast. I've heard this before. If you go to your map layers, again, I'm going to back out here. I'm going to show you right here. It's this little sandwich or file kind of icon. Click on it and simply choose recent satellite imagery. And then in the lower portion, adjust your dates forwards or backwards to get the most recent imagery, or old imagery if that's what you're after. Okay. We're going to go back to our whitefish chain example. All right, so I get back to whitefish. We zoom in a little bit. I'm going to keep that hybrid high quality imagery on. You can see, interestingly, private land. If you're an onX Hunt user, this is important to you. Let's say we're interested in creative ways to get onto lakes that maybe otherwise you wouldn't be able to get onto. Here's a great example. Look at this little thing. I don't know if it holds fish or not. It probably doesn't have a survey, but we can click on this parcel and we can see that it's part of the Crow Wing State Forest. So if you can imagine, even lakes with public accesses, maybe in the winter, there's a ton of people that either walk out of this Pine Lake access or they take trucks out, but they're not really going to go to the end of the lake. Maybe you can find another tricky way to sneak on from Big Pine Trail, because it again butts up to Crow Wing State Forest. Some of these adjacent means of public land to access these water bodies are exceptional ways to find new places to fish. places that really nobody else goes to unless they're going to the lengths that you are to be able to get to these areas. And with onX Fish, you're armed with all that information at your fingertips. I think that's really important because we always want to be respectful of private land, but why wouldn't we literally wring the rag dry, squeeze all the juice out, and get to these places that just otherwise aren't being enjoyed? It's a really key way to find new fisheries. All right, one other cool thing that we made use of this week a lot was precipitation data. You can see there's still a few storms here on the north side of Mille Lacs that are kind of making their way through, mostly light rain, not so much storms. But you can see that massive stuff that was hitting us throughout much of the rest of the day here, big storms. If you're interested in making sure that you're safe, you're out on the water, you feel like, hey, off to the west, I'm seeing some dark clouds, you can always throw up that precipitation radar layer to give you an idea what's going on. It also shows current wildfires, and you'll actually be able to click on that information. If you're in the boundary waters, that may have been something that concerned you, right? You can actually click on these fires and you can learn a little bit more about them. In this case, this one's a prescribed burn. So kind of interesting to be able to key in on that stuff if it's important to you. All right. One other thing that's interesting, especially if you in the winter are looking to access new lakes in different ways, you can see motorized trails, but also importantly, snowmobile trails. So these purple lines detail some really cool ways to get into lakes that maybe you otherwise wouldn't be able to get into. And as long as they're on public land, this is tax forfeit in this example, you can probably snowmobile right up to them and check them out. So again, this is an adventure app to help anglers find new places to fish, and in cases like this, really have the confidence to get there. Okay, so I've really described map layers a lot. I don't have a lot of time, but I want to make sure that we hit this one, which is a big one to me. Remember I showed you that precip information? Well, there's another tab, and it's called the weather tab. You're looking for this cloud and sun icon on the app or in the web map weather. Very sneakily, onX, both onX Hunt and onX Fish, has presented one of the very best weather apps, but it's built into the onX Fish app. And wherever your crosshairs is, it actually interpolates the weather for that exact location based on surrounding area weather stations. This isn't giving you the weather in Bemidji or the weather in Brainerd. This is giving you weather for the exact spot that you're looking at, including barometric pressure forecasts. Like this pressure is falling. Right now, I should be out walleye fishing because the barometer is dropping, presents an opportunity. We've had a high barometer that some of these fronts have posed in on us. And I can actually start to see a forecast for barometric pressure. I can look at the wind, what direction it's coming out of. I can look at an hourly forecast for all this. If you're a muskie angler, this is important. Majors and minors lined right up for you, so you know the best times to go out and throw those big baits. If you want to look at the moon phases, you can see exactly when the new moon or the full moon is going to hit. And there's a lot of research that suggests that 3 days either side of either a new moon or a full moon presents your very best opportunity for trophy fish, for game fish, for big fish that eat bait. So the weather tab, again, I'm going to click on it and show you weather, takes you directly to one of the very best, if not the very best, weather app for anglers already built in to onX Fish. Again, the things that matter for all of us: precip, barometer, moon phase, majors, minors, sunrise, sunset. All of this is really great information to have, whether you're planning a trip or whether you're already out on the water. So that was a mouthful. It's 7:30, Jack. I'm sure there's some house cleaning, housekeeping, as well as some other items maybe to answer. What do we miss? What do we need to tackle here?
First thing I want to do is I'm going to drop a link in the chat right now. So this is, well, let me get the link here quick. So this is, we're kind of asking a favor of everybody here. If you've used onX Fish and you've liked it, if you would please leave us a rating in the App Store. I'm going to put the link to do that in the chat right now. That just really helps us out, helps get the word about onX Fish. Let us know what you think. Let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. If you have a chance to go in and rate us, we appreciate that. I am also going to drop a link in there for the giveaway. So that is in the chat as well. And I'm going to turn off the chat for everybody right now, just so that those links don't get lost as more people type in there. Um, but there was one question I pulled here, Joel. Gentleman asked about what if I'm like a bank fisherman? What
Yeah.
recommendations do you have for, somebody who's looking to just go out and fish from shore?
Yeah, if you're looking to fish from shore, I think it's really key to understand there's a bunch of different opportunities. You could fish near a public access. That's public land. As long as you're not interfering with boats that are coming in and out, hey, have at it. There's also public fishing piers, which are listed where they do exist in yellow, just like a public access point would look at. But the third option, which is a really, really good one, especially for ice fishing, but even in open water, is this public private lands layer. Again, I'll show that that's in layers. I click on it, and then I make sure that my private lands tab is selected. Now, as I zoom into areas, you can oftentimes see them highlighted with a green shade, and it even says in this instance, Minnesota Department of Forestry. So right away, I know that this is public land that's surrounding this portion of Mule and Little Mule Lake. There's even some trails back here, it looks like, and ways to access this that you may be able to find a neat way that other people aren't getting onto this. Like, or if you're looking at some real backwoods, like some stuff that like is just really hard to get to, isn't otherwise accessible, you can really start doing some dreaming. You can start doing some cruising. Chippewa National Forest, these two lakes. There's no public fisheries surveys on them. You can know that by just clicking it says, hey, we look, but no species information. That means the DNR hasn't technically surveyed it, but some of these lakes do have fish. We've got a great YouTube and TikTok ambassador that we work with who that's his mission in life. He loves looking for new lakes that may or may not have fish. He goes and fishes them. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's a real fun way to utilize the app to get you to places you otherwise never would have got into. And sometimes he's extremely successful.
Yeah, I agree. I've been watching all of his YouTube videos lately, and I'm not saying it makes me want to leave Montana and move back to the homeland, but if I did, I could see getting myself a kayak and checking out some of those ponds and lakes that nobody else is on.
For sure.
There's a question here. Corey asked if I already pay for an onX subscription, so already has onX Hunt or Off-Road or Backcountry, do you get a deal for having, getting fish? Yep, we will cut you a deal. If you're an onX user of another app, best way to do that, Corey, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, shoot us an email or give us a call. Our customer support team is, second to none. I know I work here and I'm biased, but they really are. So if you have a onX Hunt subscription, you want to get set up with fish, you can email us help@onxmaps.com with, and that goes for any questions you have. If you want, you're having trouble with anything, or something's not making sense, or you think there's a bug in the software or something, help@onxmaps.com. Shoot us an email. You're going to get a response, very quickly. It's not going to be like some companies where it's a week later. You're going to typically get a response the next day, and we'll get you taken care of there, Corey. If you already have a different subscription, they'll make sure you're charged the right price for your fish one. Let's see. Similar question. Jeff asked, do I need to subscribe to use the app, or is it limited if not a subscriber? So you can use the free version, Jeff, but you won't have access to all the bells and whistles that we showed here, like the survey data and things like that. With that, I think we pretty well answered just about everything there, Joel. Anything else for the people before we sign off?
Hey, the only other thing I would say is in the webinar chat, if you look, Jack dropped a link for the App Store rating. If you enjoy the app, if there's things that you really love about it and you want to share that with folks, we'd really appreciate it. So leave us a positive review and you can see that App Store rating link again in the webinar chat.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us, everybody. Joel, thanks for sharing your knowledge with us, and hope everybody has a good weekend or a good week, I should say. It's only Wednesday. I'm already looking forward to the weekend, and I know we got the 4th coming up weekend after this. I'm sure there'll be a lot of folks getting out. Be a great opportunity to test out the Fish app, and 4th of July is going to be busy on those popular lakes. Maybe find yourself a new one that isn't full of jet skiers and wake boats and everything else. So thanks again, everybody. Hope you have a good night and hope to see you on a future class.